I'm just chilling, waiting on some people. Wait a minute, I had a phone call. So, I'm just waiting about a minute for some people to come in and discuss this fake beef subject and what people are in a tizzy about. So, give me a minute. It'll be real interesting and enlightening, and people will get an understanding. So usually I make a video on Facebook and I upload it to YouTube. So a lot of YouTubers think I'm making a live YouTube video, which I'm not. I just kind of store my videos on YouTube. Okay? So, give me about 30 seconds. Because I hate for people to come in the middle of a discussion or me giving a lecture and they just totally miss the beginning, which is like a leader to some points I'm going to make. I hope nobody calls me. Okie dokie. We got about 10 people in here. The rest of the people can catch up or rewatch it, or rewatch the video later after it's over. What's up, family? I see y'all coming in. What's up, Tyra Chun? What's up, Corey Shorts? Belroy Mendo? Yeah, so I'm in my bed because I'm lazy. Plus, my living room is occupied by my daughter and my grandbaby, so they got me stuck in my room. Okay, so let me explain. So it's this fake beef going around, and people are saying it's a beef, which is a fake beef, with West Africa and ancient Egypt. Okay? And this is a fake beef. Okay? Let me explain. So, when I came into the movement in 1992-93, I came in and embraced the teachings of the Nation of Islam. Okay? Nation of Islam considers themselves Asiatics. Now, when you think about an Asiatic, you'll know what area that is. That area is close to Egypt. They call it West Asia also. Historians call it West Asia. Okay? I found fault in that, and then I studied with the Moors. The Moors also consider themselves Asiatic, in that same religious location of Egypt and West Africa. Then I found fault in that, and I studied with the Hebrew Israelites. The Hebrew Israelites also, in a sense, consider themselves Asiatic. Okay? So, this is my flashpoint into consciousness, is into me thinking I'm Asiatic in a location far, far, far away from West Africa. Okay? 95% of African Americans descend from, or their heritage or their bloodline is of West Central African descent. This is a fact. You take a DNA test, it's going to put you in that geographical area. It's not going to put you in North Africa or East Africa. So when I came to the movement, I'm flooded with Asiatic ideology and anti-African ideology. The Nation of Islam didn't big up West Africa. They bigged up Asia. In Islam, The Moors bigged up Asia in a form of Islam. The Hebrew Israelites big up the area of Asia, West Asia, and the Israelites. Nobody was big up and representing West Africa, which we are from and descend from. These are facts. Now, this fake beef, okay? For instance, after I went through that journey of the Nation of Islam, the Moors, the Hebrews, then I heard about Ashraf Kwesi and began to attend his lectures because Ashraf Kwesi used to live in Los Angeles. He lives in Dallas now. But I attended his lectures. I went to a debate, I don't know if it was 15 years ago. This is before Sinetta and all that shit. And Ashraf Kwesi debated the pastor, Colin Ackridge, and whooped his ass. From that point on, I started studying ancient Egypt and started identifying with ancient Egypt. Now, nobody, absolutely nobody, is saying don't study different African cultures that are on the continent. It's a good and great thing to study all cultures, all African cultures, all races and histories, whether they're white, Arab, Chinese, Asian, black, what. It's good to study all that so you can be enlightened and informed. There's no beef with West African ancient Egypt. There's no beef with any of the master teachers. Me and my peers, we stand on the shoulders of the master teachers like Dr. Ben and John Henry Clark. We stand on their shoulders. A lot of y'all don't stand on their shoulders. Y'all stand on shoulders of people like Phil Valentine, Bobby Hemmett, and his weirdo shit. Dr. Ben and John Henry Clark didn't claim that, hey, we were the Native Americans. They didn't talk about all this Hinduism and chakras and kundalini. They wasn't into that. They were strict historians, and we stand on their shoulders. Also, they wanted us to advance their information, advance the knowledge. Don't take what they say as the law or the word of God. Because all men, all scholars, all wise men are imperfect. We all make mistakes. We all have believed and or taught something that was false or wrong. They wanted us to correct certain misinformations and advance the knowledge and advance the information. They didn't want you to stay stuck. So a lot of people, because of the programming from these fringe groups and religious groups and the teachings of history, as in, they're teaching the history as in, hey, you descend from kings and queens. You descend from ancient Egyptians. And nobody was talking about West Africa. Nobody was repping West Africa. This is the truth. It's okay. So today, we have free thinkers floating around who've evolved mentally, who've learned a little more things. Okay? So we set out to correct bad information. We set out to be truth seekers. So some of my peers have corrected some things that Dr. Ben have said that may have been wrong. Some people have corrected some things that Sheikh Anta Diop may have said and was wrong, and that's fine. They're still respected in our master teachers. So a lot of people get stuck, okay? They get stuck with certain information, and they're intellectually lazy. Oh my God. And they're intellectually lazy, and they don't want to change. So when I came to the movement and embraced all those Asiatic fractions, never West African information. How can I say this? And when I started listening to Kwesi and Dr. Ben, I call myself the God Best Reincarnated, which is a Kemetic God. It's a mythological God. He wasn't a real person. He was a dwarf god, a mythological god. I got Kemetic tattoos all on my sleeves and arms. And that's from the influence of the teachings of Dr. Ben and Ashwa Kwesi. I don't have Ndinka symbols all over me. For a reason. Not that I don't want to, but early on, in my flashpoint, in my lightning, I wasn't getting that information. I wasn't being taught West African and Central Africa ideology and traditions that they believed in and taught. I just wasn't. So that's where my flashpoint started. So you have everybody in the so-called conscious community with Kemetic names. Everybody got Kemetic symbolism in their jewelry and their artwork. The names of their businesses. It's all Kemetic. And nothing's wrong with that. But today, people are only saying that we descend from West Central Africa. We don't descend from ancient Egyptians. I descend from a people of the forest in Ghana. They had a chief, a village chief, and a queen mother. They wasn't running around saying they're kings and queens. That's the people I descend from. Now, Africa is a continent with many different cultures and black cultures on the continent of Africa. Today, the continent of Africa is made up of 54 countries who are all different. They have different politics, different traditions. Okay? So, I damn near lost my point. So, people are leaning on now, even though the DNA science will put you in the geographical area of West Africa, people are now leaning on migration patterns to save face. Hey, hell, we've been teaching ancient Egyptian shit so long. My name is Kemetic. All the symbolisms in my tattoos are Kemetic. So now I got to save face. I can't change and correct the information and state it like we are. I got to save face now. And now I got to deny DNA science and go through haplogroups and migrations and take it back thousands of years further to save face so I can fit in with being an ancient Egyptian. See, there has been a competition. White people, Arab people, and black Americans have been in competition to claim ancient Egypt as theirs. This mystical, magical place called ancient Egyptian with monuments, and we can't figure out how they built the pyramids, and this marvelous, magical, mystical stuff going on. We all, the Arabs, the black folk, black Americans, white folks, want to identify, and we've competed. We have competed for ancient Egypt and to be that people who descended from ancient Egypt. But everybody didn't descend from ancient Egypt. No, they didn't. We descended from other parts of this continent of Africa. So you can't go back so far to talk about haplogroups and migration patterns to try to fit yourself in. I disagree with a lot of my peers on all that. I do. I disagree. Because everybody wants to backdate so they can identify with the ancient Egyptians. and compete for that. That's what happened. It was a competition to claim ancient Egypt and be from that. So you got 75% of what you call the so-called conscious community believing they descend from kings and queens in ancient Egypt, and they don't. I don't. So I went on a trip to Ghana a few weeks ago. Got back a few weeks ago. I spent just about 2 weeks there. I went to 3 different museums in Ghana, West Africa. And in the museums, and amongst the people, I didn't see no ankhs, no Egyptian symbolisms, and none of that. Them people are clear on who they are and who they descend from. They don't claim to be the ancient Egyptians. Ancient Egypt was just another black culture on the continent of Africa. I don't belong to every single black culture on that entire continent of Africa. I don't, and you don't either. Okay? And that's fine. So, my point is, it is totally fine and a good thing to study ancient Egyptian culture. Nile Valley civilization. I like to say Nile Valley civilization because it broadens it. When you just say Kemet, you're just talking about Egypt, you know. So, I say Nile Valley civilization. It is totally fine. No one's hating on that. Keep studying it. Keep teaching it. But keep things in proper perspective and proper context. Don't go off here half-cocked and willy-nilly thinking that you descend from every single culture on the continent of Africa and you don't. This is one thing I'm going to say that a lot of people don't talk about. A lot of scholars avoid this topic, even my peers. Ancient Egypt was a multicultural area, just like America is. Early dynasties in ancient Egypt were a black culture, but ancient Egypt changed. It became a Mediterranean culture. All those areas by the seas, by the Mediterranean, Eurasians, Arabs, Romans, all these people filtered down. And ancient Egypt became a multicultural community and area. It just did. There were Mediterranean people from the first fucking dynasty till now, which people ain't telling you. And this is the truth. It was. Because of its geographical location. It is centered where Eurasians, Arabs, and whites and everybody coagulated and came together. So the culture became a mixed culture. People don't want to teach that and tell you that, but that's the reality. It's been a Mediterranean people in a mixed culture in Egypt since the damn first dynasty. Let's just put that out there. Okay? So when a group of people get together, they create. My people was in West Africa, which is miles and miles away, deserts away, lakes and rivers away from ancient Egypt. It's like if it was the year 1500 and I'm in the location they call California, and a hurricane jumped off in Florida, I wouldn't have no clue that a hurricane swept through Florida and flooded neighborhoods and people died. Me in California, I wouldn't have no clue that that happened. The information would never even get to me that it was a flood in Florida in the year 1500 if I'm living in California. Whatever the fuck ancient Egyptians was doing and practicing, those forest people in Ghana, in West Africa, had no fucking clue what they were doing or what was going on. Let's just be real about that. There's geography in the way. There's no telephones. There's no internet. There's no satellite systems. There's none of that. You guys have been romanticizing history. Romanticizing the fuck out of history. Like people in Ghana knew what the fuck people in Egypt was doing. They didn't. Nothing of their culture did people in Ghana, pre-colonial times, pre-Arab times, 2,000, 4,000 years ago. They didn't know what the fuck ancient Egyptians was doing or believing. They didn't. It wasn't their culture or people. It's like Somalians and Ethiopians today. You know they got Arab blood. They're a mix of Arabs and sub-Saharan Africans. People in Ethiopia didn't even abolish slavery until 1945. They weren't on the same page as people in Sudan. They was enslaving sub-Saharan Africans. Ethiopians was enslaving Sudanese people. Who you think was their slaves? Who you think Haile Selassie had as slaves? On compounds. Ethiopia didn't abolish slavery till 1945. Check the facts. Sudanese weren't their people. They didn't give a fuck about no Sudanese. They didn't give a fuck about Kenyan people. They are different people and different cultures. Ethiopians was enslaving sub-Saharan Africans. Up until 1945. They weren't the same people. You're not the same people as Ethiopians. You're not the same culture. You're not the same culture of ancient Egyptians. You're not. But there's nothing wrong with studying ancient Nile Valley civilization. It was an African culture. No one's denying that. Algeria, Morocco, Mauritania, Tunisia is African countries, but they're not African sub-Saharan people. They're not nappy-headed people. They're a different culture on the continent of Africa. So you don't descend from Moroccans. You don't descend from Algerians or none of them North Africans. They have their own culture and people. Ethiopia has their own culture and people. Ancient Egypt had their own culture and people, not you. You West Central African. So, there's no beef, and there never was. The only thing there is correction. And people and scholars putting things in its proper context. Which a lot of people like a lot of RBGs and shit don't like to hear get new information. They don't like change. They're set and stuck in their old ways, what they were influenced with mentally, and will not and don't want to change. And they'll get mad at you for enlightening them and putting things in proper context. So me telling people you don't descend from ancient Egypt, you descend from West Central Africans, pisses RBGs Moors, Israelites, Nation of Islam, it pisses these people off because they have a religious mindset still. It's just the way it is. So you come out, if you in the conscious community and you teaching some new shit and you correcting old misinformation, oh, you're going to be hated. They're going to tell you that you acting like the white man. You do it, they're going to tell you all this shit. But in reality, you're getting smarter. You're getting more blacker than them. They're acting like the enemy. They're trying to prevent you from getting more enlightenment. They want you to be stuck in those old ways and that old thinking or that old shit. Okay? So everybody, there was a fight and competition to be everything other than a West Central African. People wanted to be Native American. They wanted to be the Moors. And ain't no sub-Saharan African, ain't no West Africans conquered Spain. Arabs conquered Spain. The Moors weren't you. I'm sorry. The Moors were not you. Moors were Arabs and Berbers who conquered the Iberian Peninsula. Sub-Saharan Africans, West Africans, weren't conquering no people and doing nothing like that. We were fine and sufficient in our own land. We warred with our own people who was around us in West Central Africa. And yes, slavery was jumping off in West Africa prior to the Arabs, prior to the Europeans, pre-colonial times. There was slave reign and they had slave culture all through West Africa prior to the white man. It wasn't as bad. They weren't beating them, but they had slave labor. They even had breeding. Most of the slaves and raiding that was going on by their own West African people were women, because women was producing the babies. Most of the transatlantic slavery by European, they were taking mostly men for hard labor. But indigenous Ghana slavery was more women, because those chiefs loved concubines. All that gold and shit in West Africa, guess who mined that gold? Indigenous slavery. All that was slave labor. Indigenous slave labor prior to the white man. This is just strict history. It's no need to be mad at it. You all need to know it. And it's okay. There is no beef with West Africa, ancient Egypt. That is a fake ass beef that niggas who don't want to change and update their information or update their scholarship is pushing. A fake ass beef. So let me just scroll through here and see if any questions, because I'm not even finished. If you're late, you really need to go back and watch this video from the beginning. Who got any questions? Okay, yeah. So let's just be real with ourselves in 2020. We all jumped off our flashpoint with Asiatic ideology and then Egyptian ideology, devoid of West African traditions. That's just the reality. It's a new day. We're gonna put you cats on track now. And you're going to be forced to like it because there's nothing you can do with it. You're not the Native American. You're not the Moor. You're not the ancient Egyptians. You're not the black Chinese. I mean, people, oh, we're the original Chinese. We're the original Chinese. Everybody wanted to be everything except West African. And people were pushing around this photo of what they thought was Chinese people who were melanated and had like kinky hair. Y'all all seen that photo. That's not even Chinese. Those are Tibetan people with wigs. That wasn't even their hair. They were Tibetan monks with wigs on. Not no ancient black Chinese people. Y'all really need to get into science. See, when I started studying science, evolution, and migration, and DNA science, is when my whole thought process changed. I began to think differently and see differently. Like people actually believe that Japanese and Chinese people used to be dark and black. And the reason why they're pale today is because they were whitewashed. When you don't understand evolution and migration, you think that. Chinese and Japanese people don't have no motherfucking European DNA. Go look at a Chinese and Japanese DNA test. You got more European in you than any Chinese or Japanese. They're not pale because they were whitewashed. That's how they were. That's called from mutation. Melanin is determined. First, melanin, because you're melanated, don't mean you're African or black. Black is a social construct term. Okay? Your melanin is determined by the sun's UV rays in the specific geographical area that your people were originated in. So Native Americans are melanated because of the sun's UV rays in the geographical area they're in. Solomon Islanders are melanated because of the sun's UV rays in the geographical area that they're in. Melanin, being melanated, don't mean you're African. Once you study migration, you'll understand this. People migrated out of Africa. All humans migrated out of Africa approximately 75,000 years ago to populate the rest of the planet. It was barren and empty in the Western Hemisphere. It was empty in what we call North America. Nobody was here. In fact, it was an ice age here called the Laurentine Ice Sheet. Look it up. When you're not scientific, you don't even know it was a fucking ice age here and that nobody lived here because people weren't living on a goddamn ice sheet. It was empty. People migrated out of Africa 75,000 years ago, and when they left out of Africa, guess who they ran into? Archaic humans, like Neanderthals, Denisovan. When you hear the term Homo Neanderthal, Homo erectus, Homo habiliganzus, Homo means human. So when I say Homo Neanderthal or Homo erectus, I'm basically saying an archaic human. So when they left out of Africa 75K years ago, they ran into archaic human and admixed. Mutation jumped off. Their diets were different. The sun's UV rays were different. They mutated. Us today, I'm a mutated human. White people are mutated humans. Asian people are mutated humans. You're not of the original people who migrated 75,000 years ago out of Africa. You're not that. All of us are mutated humans. We mutated and admixed. This is why, let me just say it like this. Once we left Africa 75K years ago, approximately 25K years later, which is 50,000 years ago from today, they landed in Australia. That travel and migration from Africa to Australia took 25,000 years. And they landed in Australia. Once they landed in Australia, they became isolated from the rest of the populations of the world. That's why they call the original Australians Aboriginals. Aboriginal is a term only for original Australians who landed there 50K years ago, and those Tasmanian people. Those are Aboriginals. Africans, Asian people, white people, we're not Aboriginal people. We're indigenous to West Africa or Africa. We're not indigenous to other lands. We're indigenous to one land, and that's Africa. Now, people migrated out of Africa 75,000 years ago, landed in Australia 25,000 years ago. But before that, they also was in India, Indus Valley area, Asia, and humans mutated to what they look like today. That's why we have the many races today. Right? And that's why Africa has great genetic diversity. People in Australia, or what we call those Aboriginal people, those Tasmanian people, also Solomon Islanders and Pacific Islanders are sometimes called Aboriginal people. Those people don't have a lot of genetic diversity because they were isolated. That population of humans didn't mix with the rest of the world and obtain all this genetic diversity. That's why Australians or Aboriginal people don't have a lot of genetic diversity. There's nothing wrong with that. Even African Americans today, we have a small smidgen of Neanderthal DNA. Because we admixed when we left out of Africa. And we have some European DNA in us. So since we have European DNA in us, we have a very small percentage of Neanderthal DNA. And guess what? Nothing is wrong with having Neanderthal DNA. It's not a negative thing. Neanderthals is ancestors of all humans. Because Neanderthals first came out of Africa 300, 400,000 years ago into Europe. Neanderthals ain't got nothing to do with white folk. Like conscious community think. White folk wasn't even around then. Okay? So, I just wanted to clear a lot of that shit up. And people need to change. People need to embrace science. I've been in the conscious community since 1990 motherfucking 3. I've heard all the history. I've listened to all the master teachers in and out meticulously. And I'm cool with history. And I loved it. I got it. So now I wanted to be more science-based. And be scientifically illiterate. And take it to another level. And be enlightened. When I became more scientifically literate, everything I learned in history became more clear. I said, oh, that's why. But if you just strictly on history and you haven't become scientifically literate yet, you will still be in a state of confusion about history. It may not be totally clear to you. until you get scientifically literate and understand migrations, understand evolution. Half the conscious community don't even believe in evolution and think they were created. And they believe in creationism. Let's just keep that real. Half the conscious community says they're conscious, but still are religious because they think they were created. They don't believe in evolution. They think somebody created them and they popped up out of thin air. So I'm trying to think some other shit I'm forgetting to say that's gonna come to mind. But that's the gist of it. So, bottom line, I'm saying there is no ancient Egypt and West African beef. Only people with bad behavior are saying that. And are trying to act like it's some beef. Those are just people who don't want to change. Those are just people who are scientifically illiterate. Those are people who are mad that they got Kemetic tattoos all over them and a Kemetic name, and now they got the safe face. These are people who are now denying DNA science and talking about haplogroups and migration so they can fit into being ancient Egyptian. It wasn't you. Chief X, I'm out.